How are you supposed to know? You're the number one tackle out of college. Like, how are you supposed to know?
4.
Oh, so what's your phone, boy?
Yeah, they have some wide receiver help.
New telephone.
1.
Yes, I'll start us off, bro.
College.
Are we like live now?
Yes, bro.
Oh, shoot. I didn't see the thing.
All right, hello, welcome to Table Talk Sports. We got. All right. Sorry about that. He's a rookie. Table Talk Sports. Welcome back, Table Talk Sports. We're here, college football segments. You got your hosts, Logan, Marcelo, and Tyler, and we're jumping into some college football. Let's talk about some games this week. Tyler, you want to start off with any games you liked? Teams you liked? I want to highlight Alabama and Ole Miss, to be honest with you, because people were counting out Alabama last week. You know, they had a close game against them. What was it? USF, right? Mm-hmm. USF. And, you know, they had a really big win against a good Ole Miss football team. And, you know, they held Lane Kiffin to his lowest points scored. I think it was either against Alabama or just the lowest points scored in his Ole Miss tenure. So it was a good win for them, and, you know, people were doubting Nick Saban again, but he just shows that he's come back, and they're still in the playoff picture. They just have to win out, and they're going to be right there again. So,
yeah, the Alabama defense did a great job against Jackson Dart. I love him as a quarterback. 244 yards, no touchdowns, like to point out, and an interception. That's a great job from the Alabama defense, especially also stopping the run. 1.9 yards a carry for Ole Miss. When you do that, not allowing the quarterback to throw a touchdown, you're going to get results.
So, give me what to talk about.
LSU, Arkansas, kind of just chipped in. I kind of just chipped in watching it. Back and forth game. I forgot who for LSU that popped off. Neighbors. 130 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Neighbors.
Yeah.
Also, Brian Thompson Jr.
Yeah. Their passing attack was really good, and they ended up rallying. A win. Arkansas tried to come back, but yeah, LSU won that. Yeah, these are 2 stellar SEC teams. I mean, 2 great quarterbacks, KJ Jefferson versus Jaden Daniels. And, yeah, I mean, it was a great game, hard-fought game. I feel like Arkansas is very competitive. They're right on that borderline top 25 team. And I know they weren't able to pull one out against BYU, tough one the other week. And they weren't able to pull off another one against LSU. And it's going to be an interesting season for Arkansas to see where they fall at the end of the season, because 2-2 now. They had bigger aspirations going into this year. Yeah.
I think we just go through the AP poll and just give our thoughts on.
I feel like we got to touch them on the Rutgers game though.
Yeah. Well, that's when we go to Michigan though.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's start. You want to start at 1 or 25?
Doesn't matter. Just pick.
We'll start at 25. So Fresno State's 25 in the poll, and it's honestly about time they got ranked. In my poll, I have them at 22. They've been really impressive so far, 53-10 win against Kent State, and the offenses just looked really good. And their win against Arizona State looks even more impressive after USC struggled to beat Arizona State on the road, and Fresno State shut them out on the road, beat them by 30. So it's really impressive team so far, and they've probably been one of the surprises of the season so far.
Yeah, I do like Fresno State as I think they're the best group of 5. They're the best group. I think they're the best group of 5 team right now. They had a pretty gutsy win over Purdue. I'm not really liking Purdue's team this year, but I mean it's an away game against a Big Ten school, so that's a great W to have on your schedule. And that touching up on the Arizona State game again, that's just a phenomenal win. Especially it's also in Arizona State.
Mm-hmm. We can go to Kansas at 24.
Kansas, BYU coming off a great game. Kansas beats them. And I think it was Kobe Bryant had that big hit.
Yeah.
Fumble 6. I saw that.
Kansas. Another impressive start to the season, just like last year. Mine I have them at 23, so just about the same year. But I mean, the offense just looked really good, and it's kind of weird having BYU and Kansas as a Big 12 matchup, but a conference win nonetheless, and a good way to start the season for them. 23.
Missouri.
Another really good team. I really like them a lot. I got them at 20. But I don't know. It's just the SEC doesn't seem as strong this year, but Missouri they came out of nowhere. They got a lot of good recruits. What's his name? Luther. Freaking,
Yeah, they got the number one recruit.
He finally he's
2024 or 2025.
Well, that's not the Luther. What's his name? Luther something. But he was like 2 years ago. He was like 5-star receiver, but he's finally coming of an age. He looked really good. And Missouri offense has looked really good as well.
Yeah. I don't know much to say about Missouri. 22, Florida. Interesting Florida team. They just come off a win against Charlotte. I know they had a big win the week before against Tennessee. I really like that game against Tennessee. The atmosphere was amazing in Gainesville. Yeah. I know they had a earlier loss to Houston. Or was it Houston? Utah. I can't read. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Honestly, Florida doesn't really move me. They didn't cover the spread against Charlotte, and Charlotte's not a very good football team. They did have a good one against Tennessee, but then again, I don't really rank Tennessee that high. Joe Milton hasn't really impressed me at all yet. He got a great arm, but his decision-making, he's not there yet.
It's a lot of people like that.
And
great arm, bad decision-making.
You know, they lost to Utah. I don't think Cam Rising played, right, that game.
Mm-hmm.
But Utah was down a lot of starters. They've been down a lot of starters, and they got really dominated that game. So Florida doesn't really move me yet, but I do think they should be ranked. But I don't know how much longer the move will stay.
Mm-hmm. Next up, Tennessee.
You got Tennessee?
I'll take Ole Miss.
Okay. Tennessee, I just share my thoughts on them. So.
Yeah, Tennessee. I thought they were gonna. I had better aspirations for them coming into this year. I did not see them dropping that game to Florida. Looking up on their schedule, they got South Carolina, and they're just hopping straight into the SEC games. Looking forward to that Alabama game, of course, at Alabama. Will Alabama get revenge? I don't know, but I haven't been impressed with Joe Milton that much. I had bigger aspirations coming in, especially for him on this team with his arm talent, but he hasn't come through yet for me.
We got Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss, big drop for them, down to 20. Started off strong, dropping 73 on Mercer, and their offense kept going through. But then once they hit Alabama, tough loss.
That's just the SEC gauntlet.
SEC. Yeah. And now they face LSU. Let's see if they could put up a fight, maybe steal a game against them.
And Tulane was right there with them for most of the game, and Tulane's a really good group of five school. Tulane's a really good group of five school, and Tulane was right there with them for most of the game. I don't even think they had their starting quarterback that game. So, Ole Miss, a little bit of a weird team, but we'll see if they can get back on track.
Oregon State going into the Pac-12 schools. Really love the Pac-12 this year. I feel like Oregon State would finish a lot higher this year if they weren't in the if the Pac-12 wasn't as loaded. Great game against Washington State. I was watching that back and forth. I love DJ. I love how he got out of Clemson. Great decision. They dropped 5 spots, but they're going to run through the Pac-12 gauntlet now, so it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. I really like Oregon State. Tough loss to Washington State and Cam Ward, but Cam Ward has looked like a top 3 Heisman candidate this year. And honestly, I don't really understand the 5-spot drop because they lost to a really, really good Washington State team, and it's a conference game on the road, so I really don't get them dropping 5 spots. But, I think they're going to end up finishing a lot higher. They got a lot of good opportunities coming up. They got Utah this week, and, Utah's still without a lot of their starters, so that could be another win. So, yeah. Skip Miami. I don't really care about Miami. Duke, another really good team. I thought they should have been ranked in the preseason poll. They weren't, but, they came out firing on all cylinders, beat Clemson at home, a dominating win. And they really just ran through their schedule so far. But here is where they start to hit their
Notre Dame. That's going to be interesting. Yeah. Notre Dame coming off a great game against Ohio State that they could have won easily.
Next 3 of their 4 games, Louisville on the road is going to be tough. Florida State on the road obviously going to be tough, and Notre Dame at home. So we're going to see how they fare, if they can keep these games close or if they're going to fall off.
Going to Washington State, Cam Ward has been spectacular this year. I mean, he had 404 passing yards last game against Oregon State in a huge win. Moved up 5 spots, and if they continue this, they're going to keep moving up. Who they got next? They don't play a ranked team for another 2 weeks till Oregon, but that would be definitely a great game.
Yeah. Next is UNC. UNC honestly really hasn't impressed me. I don't really know how they're above Duke.
Yeah, Drake May can be. I think he's thrown more interceptions already than last year.
Yeah, he's a little streaky,
but I mean they're keeping it up. So
yeah, but I
honestly see them against more competition.
Yeah, I would have them a little bit lower right now, probably underneath Duke and Washington State. But yeah, I do think they should be ranked.
They're playing Syracuse this week, who Jeremy loves. So we'll see if Syracuse can prove themselves this week against them.
Next, we got Oklahoma. Really, I think it's a really, really good win on the road at Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's not a place where teams win.
Yeah.
So
Big 12 win, conference win on the road, and the defense played lights out. Held Cincinnati to just 6 points. And people won't say it's the flashiest win, but any conference on the road game, and especially at Cincinnati, tough place to win. Impressive win for Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. Going on to LSU. I do like LSU as a team. They did have a tough loss against Florida State. I feel like they were in that for a majority of the game. Just didn't go their way. I like LSU's. I love their players. I love Jaden Daniels. Just they gotta bounce back. They're gonna go through the gauntlet, of course, of the SEC. They got 2 back-to-back top 25 games. Yeah, it's just gonna be another hard grind season for LSU to see if they can get back to where they were with Joe Burrow.
We'll skip Bama because we already talked about them. We'll go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they looked, I'd say, all right against Ohio State. I say both teams didn't really impress me that much.
Yeah, you're probably expecting a shootout, right?
Yeah. But a good defensive matchup. Ohio State's defense is pretty good. I'll give them that.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Hartman, he didn't look as good as he's looked so far early in the season. But Audric Estime obviously has looked like one of the best running backs in the country so far.
Mm-hmm.
Possible Heisman candidate. But Notre Dame's got a tough couple matchups. They got Duke on the road, Louisville on the road, and they come back home and take on USC.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's really just interesting to see if Notre Dame figures out a way to go 11-1, do they get that bid into the college football playoff?
Yeah.
But I mean, we're gonna have to see. It's a tough gauntlet to go through. So then you got Utah with a 4-0 start. Yeah. We got 3 Pac-12 teams in a row in the top 10, so they're going to be going against each other soon. So that's going to be great to see.
Utah has looked pretty good without a lot of starters. They beat Florida. They beat Baylor on the road.
UCLA.
And a good win against UCLA. UCLA, I think they should have been ranked still. It was a tough loss, but UCLA, J. Michael Sturdivant, he's looked like one of the best receivers in the country so far, and but it's a good win for Utah nonetheless. And once they get all their starters back, it's gonna just add to the firepower of the Pac-12.
And then Oregon handling business. They finally stopped the Colorado hype. Huge win, and I love their coach. Very gutsy, going for fake punts on their own inside their own 20, potentially giving the momentum to Colorado, but no.
Yeah, I do think that Oregon was heavy favorites, and I do think they should have been deserved to be heavy favorites. And I think if you just look at the O lines and the D lines, and you just compare the size differences, Colorado never really had a chance, especially with arguably their best player being out. I don't really think it would have made a difference, but you could just see Colorado still a couple years away from bringing in that talent on the D line and all that. They have the skill position talent, but really just the trenches talent, they don't have it there yet.
Mm-hmm. And then you got USC dropping 3 spots, even though they just won by 14 against a pretty good Arizona State team, which surprised me. Obviously, Caleb Williams, Heisman candidate. I'm just surprised why they dropped 3 spots.
Yeah, I don't agree with it.
Because, sometimes Georgia and Michigan haven't really had the toughest opponents yet. They haven't dropped even for when they struggled.
Yeah, I don't agree with it at all. I think USC is a top 3 team in the country.
I mean, Georgia was struggling with UAB for like 2 whole quarters. They didn't drop at all, obviously, because of the bias from the years before. But, I mean, Georgia's almost a new team. You got a lot of people leaving for the NFL, so I feel like you can't just leave them there if you're going to do the same with USC and drop them 3 spots.
I think USC is a top 3 team in the country. Mm-hmm. And people will point at their defense for, giving up a lot of points. But at the end of the day, if you can just outscore your opponents,
You have Caleb Williams,
you're gonna
number
win.
one pick.
You're gonna win every game. You got Zach Branch, just a really explosive offense, and I just don't agree with them dropping 3 spots to number 8. 8 is a little ridiculous to me, but it's reasonable seeing with some of the teams above them and some of the wins that they got this week. So it's not awful, but I don't really like them dropping that far, especially with Washington.
Yeah, Washington. I love Washington. I love Michael Penix Jr. I feel like Michael Penix Jr. is my leader for the Heisman right now. Yeah, I mean they had a dominating win against Michigan State, and now they dropped 59 on Cal. I know they gave up 32, but their defense has shown that they could play also, like completely shutting down Michigan State. And right now, I think I do have them in my making the college football playoff for me. They're gonna have a tough gauntlet going through the Pac-12, but
yeah, Washington's also one of my favorite teams. They're just right up there with USC for me. A great quarterback, Michael Penix Jr., a great receiver, Romo Dunze, and it's just really week in and week out. They're just scoring a lot of points, but their defense is pretty good as well. And it's just gonna be really interesting when USC and Washington meet up. It's gonna be a really good game.
Mm-hmm. And then you got Penn State, Drew Aller, having a great year so far. Held Iowa to 0. You can look at that as a huge accomplishment, or you can look at that they have to get rid of that offensive coordinator. Yeah, I'm real talking about Iowa now. Iowa scares me for their offense. I mean, I thought Cade McNamara was going to come in and save it. Hasn't so far. It's shaky for them.
Yeah.
They got Penn State has Northwestern on Saturday at noon, so that should be an easy win.
Yeah, dominating win for Penn State, and we all know that Iowa's defense is one of the best in the country. And for Penn State to put 31 on them is really impressive. And Keandre Lambert-Smith is one of the most underrated receivers in the country. So Penn State definitely, I feel like, has a better chance at beating Michigan and Ohio State compared to other years. I feel like if any year they're going to do it, it's probably this year.
Who do we got next? We got Florida State, who did look shaky in that game 2 weeks ago against Boston College. I do love Florida State. Great win against Clemson. You could say, Clemson's looking off this year, but you're going into Death Valley and you're getting out with an overtime win. You can't be mad with that.
Yeah,
love Keon Coleman.
Yeah. Something about Florida State that does worry me is their run defense. And it was a pretty bad matchup, honestly, going against Will Shipley, one of the best running backs in the country. But, yeah, if you go down the line, if you go against some teams with a better defense than Clemson, I don't know how Florida State's going to fare. So,
Moving on to Ohio State, their defense has surprised me. Offense still got to put it together. I mean, they had a great game against Western Kentucky, but it took like a quarter or two just to snap it in. But Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously, amazing player. Hopefully his ankle gets better. But it's really just going to be, can they put their offense together before they get to the Penn State and Michigan game?
So you got anything to go, Ohio State?
He'll talk in the NFL episode.
Okay.
NFL.
Not a big college person.
It's okay.
We'll go to Texas. Another dominant win at Baylor. Big 12 road game, obviously. You got that aspect. And just 30-point victory last week. Beat Wyoming by 20. Beat Bama on the road by 10. Double digits. So Texas has looked really, really good so far.
It's just, can they get through the Big 12?
Yeah, they got tough couple games coming up. Kansas at home and then Oklahoma at home again. So
I think they can afford a loss this year.
Yeah.
They just have to win the Big 12 and stick to 12-1. I think they can finally get in that college football playoff. I do love Quinn Ewers.
Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan. Let's talk about Michigan. Nice win over Rutgers. We'll talk a bit about Rutgers. I mean, start off the game, hit Christian Dremel, like 70-something
69 yards.
69-yard touchdown. And then they got a 3-and-out, and then they gave the ball to Kyle Monangai. Apparently there was a hold. I did not see the hold, and it was like a 25-yard run for Kyle Monangai. Completely taken back. and then the offense really wasn't it for the rest of the day. I mean, you're hitting hitches. Gallagher didn't have a horrible game. It was 17-7 midway through the third. Rutgers was driving. For some reason, they threw a screen on fourth down. And they made a great play. And the Michigan defense I do love the Michigan defense. They were down one of their best defenders, and they still came out and they played the run really good, which Rutgers has been really good so far. Shut down Kyle Monangai for the most part. Yeah. Anything to say?
Yeah, I don't really think it was that impressive of an outing for Michigan. Rutgers has looked pretty good to start the season, but I do think Michigan's schedule so far has been pretty weak, and I think that will end up hurting them in the long run.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought they were
going to
gonna
win the away game.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be way better than they were so far. I thought they would be a lot more dominant, but yeah, up to the pick six, it was really
Close,
a really
it could have been
close game.
It could have been 17-7 if Rutgers didn't go for it on another drive before that.
Yeah, it was.
And they also missed the field goal.
Yeah, it was. I think it was more close than Michigan would have wanted it to be at that point.
But
once the pick six happened,
they did pick it up in the fourth
once
quarter.
the pick six happened, it was kind of just like, let's just run up the score from there.
Mhm.
And then
JJ McCarthy hasn't been the greatest this year, but he's getting his job done. Blake Corum isn't not the same Blake Corum as last year, but he's still one of the best running backs in the country, especially with Donovan Edwards, who's having a great year. Yeah, and Roman Wilson. I mean, they got a great squad.
And last but not least, Georgia. Georgia has not impressed me either. I feel like they've been struggling by halftime with a lot of teams, especially UAB. It was not a very good football team, and I think it was uncomfortably close. And 2 weeks ago, or last week, South Carolina also. So, we would like to see the defending champs be a little more dominant, and they do have a lot of new faces. So I realistically could see them. I mean, they got a pretty easy schedule, but you could see them possibly dropping one or possibly two.
I mean, we'll see how good they are once they face the SEC gauntlet. And that's a wrap unless you guys have any more teams to bring up that you like. No?
I mean, Colorado.
I guess. You could look at Colorado. Is the hype there? Is TCU really a good team? Like, they were ranked at the beginning of the season, but obviously losing a lot of key players last year, Max Duggan. Was that really that big of a win? Was it a top 13 win like was it really an amazing top 13 win on the road? Obviously, next week they came in at home, and Colorado State almost upset them. So we're going to have to see once they play some more Pac-12 teams, are they really legit? Is that it?
Yeah.
It's a wrap on college football.
Jeremy,
Should we just go straight in the NFL?
Jeremy.
No, it's rolling out and music and stuff like that. And just
you go for NFL, buddy.
Oh, boy. I'm having a field day. I am going to have a field day. I'm coming in with the heat.
Like that. Hold on.
I'm coming in with the heat. I'm attacking Daniel Jones.